Walker, we can now speak to Donnacha Beacháin, who is a lecturer on post-Soviet politics at Dublin City University, joins us via Skype from the Moldovan capital, Chisinau. And so, as Robin was saying there appear to be two key factors driving these protests. You have the unresolved dispute between Georgia and Russia over those breakaway regions of Abkhazia and South Ossetia, but also this kind of broader discontent with the government in Georgia right now. Do you see a way out of this?
No, I don't think anybody sees a way out of it. No, I don't think anybody can even right now understand how deep the crisis is. I think the report is correct in identifying this as being the result of underlying systemic problems. Otherwise, it would be impossible to understand why people would be so outraged that a Russian deputy would simply sit in the wrong seat, as it were, taking the speaker's chair in the Georgian parliament, unless you contextualize it into the broader framework of Russian-Georgian relations. And as your reporter said, there have not been diplomatic relations between those two countries since 2008, since the Russian-Georgian war, and that disharmonious relationship has not ameliorated. There has been improvements on the people-to-people level. For example, 1 million Russian tourists have visited Georgia during the last year, but relations between Moscow and Tbilisi are still chilly at the best of times. And then there's a second factor, which is increasing dissatisfaction with the government. It's important to stress that the government of Georgia is somewhat dysfunctional. Certainly, it's very unusual in that there is one man, Ivanishvili. He's a multi-billionaire. He has about $6 billion to his name. And he more or less has the choice of who will be prime minister or president. The prime minister and president more or less were chosen because they were in his inner circle. And he has no formal position within the government. And until that kind of position is more or less clarified, I think there will always be a certain degree of dissatisfaction. But also there's the fact that he's been in power now for 6 or 7 years. There's a certain feeling of stagnation and that Georgia is losing its place. It's aspiring towards EU membership, it's aspiring towards NATO membership, but it's very far at the back of the queue. And there's a long tradition. You might say, why are these protests particularly important right now? There's a long tradition in Georgia of regime change as a result of not elections, not a parliamentary arithmetic changing in legislatures, but of protests on the street. And on this particular street, Rustaveli Street, it's the main thoroughfare of Georgia. It's where Parliament is located. And if you look at how power has changed throughout most of post-Soviet Georgia's history, it started always with mass protests in the streets of Rustaveli, and of course, disproportionate use of force by the authorities.
And that appears to have exacerbated the situation there. For now, thank you very much. Appreciate your analysis from the Moldovan capital, Chisinau. Donnacha Beacháin joining us.